Hi, everyone. It's Larry Lawler here from the American Society of Tax Problem Solvers. And I've just got a few things that I think you might be interested in that came out of the recent release from the Taxpayer Advocate's Office. So I pulled out like 7 what I think are interesting topics from the Taxpayer Advocate's report to Congress, actually, the recommendations to Congress. They were in the Purple Book. It's part of the annual report that goes to Congress, but it's the actual recommendations to Congress of things that the taxpayer advocate believes that Congress should act on and should enact, if you will. So it's by definition or by title, it's called a compilation of legislative recommendations to strengthen taxpayer rights and improve tax administration. So that's the official title of it, commonly called the Purple Book because it's purple on the cover. And the Purple Book contained a number of different things this year, a lot of different things this year. But let me just point out to you the 7 that I picked out as I think being immediately appropriate for us. Number 1, they think that the IRS should start having minimum competency standards for tax preparers. I know. We've seen it all before. The Loving case, so on and so forth. I'm familiar with it. But what this proves is that they are being persistent. The IRS believes, the taxpayer advocate, including the commissioner's office right on down, they all believe that tax preparers should be regulated somehow, or at least have to establish minimum competency standards. And quite honestly, I can't disagree with it. I think it's a fine idea. I mean, if the girl who does your haircut, or someone who puts false nails on at a salon has to have a license, why shouldn't a tax preparer have to have a license? Certainly a far more serious issue than getting a haircut that you do once a month. So that's one thing, and one of the number one things that the taxpayer advocate is recommending to Congress. In addition to that, they're also asking, this is on a rather technical issue, they're asking for clarification of 6751B, which is whether or not supervisory approval has got to be secured prior to proposing a 6662 penalty on a taxpayer. So, this is one of the issues that's been around this year a lot, whether or not those penalties are valid if they didn't get advanced approval. And, it's for the accuracy related type penalties. So they think that this should be clarified by Congress. They also want to have the Taxpayer Bill of Rights elevated to being Part 1 of the Internal Revenue Code. And that's just to give it a higher profile, make sure that no one has a problem finding it. It's the very beginning of the code. So the advocate is proposing to Congress that they modify that and they require it be put into Part 1 of the Internal Revenue Code. They also think that the offer in compromise program accessibility will be enhanced by repealing the partial pay requirement. In other words, when you send in an offer in compromise, you've either got to send in 20% of the amount you're offering, or you've got to start making monthly payments. The advocate is contending that the IRS would be better off if they dropped that requirement, which historically, by the way, I believe it was only put in place when there were offers flooding into the IRS by all of these tax mills that popped up, and they were lousy offers. They had to do something to stem the tide or stem the flow of all of those things coming into the IRS because they were getting overwhelmed with them. So they put a price on it. You got to send money in with it, and that really did work to hold things back. But now the advocates looked at it and said, at this point in time, they believe it's costing the IRS money because they're not getting offers that might otherwise be good offers and bring revenues into the government. So the taxpayer advocate, Aaron Collins, being the current taxpayer advocate, has advocated for removal of that partial pay requirement. Also, they think that they should modify the requirement for the Office of Chief Counsel to review certain offers in compromise. And the reason for that being that they think the threshold at least is too low. I believe currently it's around $50,000 before it's got to be reviewed, but probably would make more sense if it was around $250,000 and give the offer unit the authority to make approval and a higher limit without having to go to council, which ties everything up. Obviously, if everything, the larger dollars got to go through council. And by the way, large dollar to the IRS today, if you hear about their policies going forward, that they're going after large dollar taxpayers and everything else, probably a good idea for you to understand that by large dollar, they mean $100,000 a year of income. That's a large dollar taxpayer to the IRS. So obviously, in today's world, that's not a very high threshold, and it opens them up to going after lots of people. They also want to require the IRS to refund any money that was collected, perhaps by levy or whatever else, above the amount of an accepted offer. So if an offer gets accepted at a stated dollar amount, and the IRS has some or another before they collected enough money that they collected more than the accepted offer, the advocate is contending that that money should be refunded to the taxpayer. That'd be a wonderful thing. We'd love to see that happen, because many times the IRS gets money before the offer gets approved. And right now their attitude is, okay, that just goes against your old liability, and therefore your liability will be smaller, so your offer is doing you less good than it would have otherwise. So I think that's a nice proposal by the advocate as well. And then they want to also repeal the suspension of the statute of limitations running. The advocate is saying that right now the statute of limitations is running when you seek assistance from the taxpayer advocate. Well, they think that that should be repealed. You should be able to contact the taxpayer advocate to get help without having the statute for collection or assessment suspended. So they're proposing that they repeal that provision as well, so that you could go to the taxpayer advocate, you could ask for help, and you wouldn't have to worry about extending the statute of limitations. Just a bunch of good ideas. So thought some of these might be of use to you in this quick little vignette. So if there's anything else we can do, or you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call. ASTPS.org is our website. And you will also find that, if you want to look into these things further, you can go onto irs.gov, and under the Taxpayer Advocate, you can search for the annual report to Congress for 2023. And in that report, you will find what is called the Purple Book, which is where these various items I just mentioned came from. So other than that, have a great day. Hope this provides a little bit of quick help, saving you maybe a little bit of research, and keeps you up to date on what's going on in the IRS. Have a great day, everybody.